mindset, that you need to. They feel like I'm not eligible to get into tech because of where I'm coming from or the experience I have. And so if that's you and you want to get more information, then this is for you. You're looking to get into tech, you're looking to earn more here in the US, and get away from working on earning hours, multiple who have to work 2-3 jobs to keep body and soul together these days. And so that's not if you're trying to get away from that, then this is for you. And then for anyone who's just working, a lower tier job and wants better, then this is definitely for you. And my objectives today is to really break down what exactly it is database administrators do. And like the topic says, and I'm just going to jump past this one, but we want to look at what are the options available to you, right? If you maximize, your expertise or your opportunity as a database administrator, what are the different places you can work? What are the different titles you can have? That's what we want to get into today. Now, database administration is one of the most sought after roles in tech, even though for some strange reason it is not as popular to these days, right? People talk about data analysis, cyber or business analysts, and cyber security, and even the non-technical tech roles like agile and scrum and product management. Those tend to get a bigger buzz now, but the truth is, because of the dependence of the whole world on data, data professionals are always going to be sought after, right? So if that's something you're looking for as a DBA, we get to do meaningful work. What that means is the work that I do directly impacts what the company becomes. It impacts output, it impacts income and revenue. So you get to do work that matters. You're not just counting. You're not just marking attendance. You're actually doing meaningful work. And then you possibly, the income opportunities or earning opportunities are huge. And I'm going to talk more about that. You're excited about the prospects of working from home and having that work-life balance. Then that's opportunities we have here as database engineers, database administrators. And of course, because data is such a staple when it comes to any industry, you get to have the opportunity to have that long and successful career. So those are all of the benefits, of a career in database administration. And then just have it's about having longevity in your career. So let's jump right into what exactly is a database. And as simply put as possible, a database is anywhere we can store information. Anywhere you can store information is a database. It doesn't matter what it is, electronic or not electronic, right? So your folders, your physical folders, your cases where you put all those important documents, those are databases. Your computers, your phones, where you store, important files and folders and important documents, those become databases, right? Your friend, you tell stuff, your brain, the things you store in your mind, and when you read, you make that a very huge database with massive processing ability, right? So as long as it can store information, it is a database. Now we look at, okay, what makes you a database administrator, right? I kind of said this a little bit. In the world we live in today, every business, regardless of what they do, is driven, on data, right? Data is at the core of everything we do, regardless of the industry, regardless of what they do, what they sell, what service they offer. At the core of most businesses is data, right? The businesses rely on data, and they need experts with specific skills who can use specific tools to help them with managing all of this business critical data, right? Whether it's customer records, transactions, all of those things. Somebody is at the back end ensuring that the data is going to the right place. The right people have access to the right data, and they use very specific software tools, right, called database systems. So a database administrator is proficient in one of those database management systems, and they use their proficiency in these platforms to help businesses with administering or managing their business critical data. That is why they are called database administrators, right? Again, you need to be proficient in one of these tools, some of these platforms, right? So I put out some examples of some of the database management platforms, right? Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres. The list goes on and on. It's a huge list. You might be familiar with some of them. You might be seeing some of them for the first time. And this is not this is not an exhaustive list. There are more platforms that exist, relational, non-relational. I've done a workshop on the difference between the two before. So something to go check out in our YouTube channel. So what's the opportunity here, right? What does it look like? Is this even a good career path? Database administrators are in high demand, right? There is always a demand for the exact reasons I explained before. The dependence of businesses on data makes it a high demand field, right? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics here in the US, the field is expected to grow 8% between 2 years ago and the next 8 years, right? And that's 10,000 new jobs every year. And I feel like this is under projected considering the advent of AI and all of these things. There is more and more dependence on data, and I feel like it's going to be even more rapid than projected. That's just my projections from being an expert in the field. So in terms of where we can work, because again, it's not industry specific. Every business, whether it's in the medical space, whether it's retail or financial space, banks, they all depend on data. Right, the hospitals need to keep patient records safe. They need to prescriptions, patient history, medical records, prescriptions. All of that needs to have a home somewhere, right? That means somebody needs to manage that data, right? You go to banks, transactions, account balance, all of that. Somebody needs to manage their records. Retail, same thing, right? Inventory, orders, how many things did you purchase, reports, all of that good stuff, right? So there is no industry limitation when it comes to where opportunities exist for database administrators. As long as data is involved, we can work there. So that gives us a very, very wide playing field. Right now, what exactly, in terms of income, what do we really make? Again, according to the Department of Labor, so this is legit stats. Median salary here in the US for database administrators is $101,000. So when just right above 6 figures, so when we say, hey, work at 6 figures, it's actually from valid data. It's one of the high earning groups when it comes to tech career professionals here in the US. And you see, people can earn on salary basis up to 150K, even way more than that for people that do hourly salaries. People get up to $80 an hour. That's taking you way over the 150, right? The thing with those higher hourly rates is they tend to be contract roles, and some are maybe shorter term, 6 months, 9 months, and so it's so on average it ends up averaging out for most people to around this number. So that's in terms of opportunity and potential for earning. This is one of the better places you can be in terms of career opportunities, and it's going to continue to be that way. One of the better, beautiful things about data and a career in data is that stability that comes with it. We've always been a data-driven society. Everybody makes decisions based on data. You are on this call because you did some analysis of data in your mind, and based on available options to you, you said this is the best place for you to be. And so there's a level of stability to be expected. Technology is going to evolve. There's going to be there's going to be advancements, but what will not stop needing is data. No matter the technology, no matter the advancement, no matter how intelligent, right? We talk about artificial intelligence being a big deal now, and people talk about the threat of AI to jobs and people's future jobs, right? No matter how intelligent AI gets, it's going to be able to do what it does. It's still going to be powered by data, basically is where I'm going. And so data experts will always have a job, regardless of how advanced technology becomes. No matter how intelligent vehicles become or technology becomes, intelligence is basically a product of available information, right? When a kid is smart, it's because when somebody is intelligent, that means they just have they have access to a large amount of data in their brain, and they're able to process and release that information fast. So that's the same thing, when it comes to the stability that we can project in this line of work is a product of the dependence of the world on data, especially in the tech space. So we're not going anywhere. This is not going to expire and then become obsolete in the next few years. So database engineers, database administrators, data people will always have a place in the tech landscape. As long as there's people doing this, and we're not, even if the day we start flying, there's always going to be opportunities for us because we will be the ones powering those things from the back end. So it's stable. There's growth. It's going to continue to grow. Faster than most options we have. And I have I put out some screenshots just to show you again directly from the Department of Labor's website. The Bureau of Labor Statistics controls all of this or manages all of this data here in the US, and so that's where this is from. So you can look this up for yourself. And I put out just to show the diversity of opportunities where you can work. These are some of the companies where some of our alumni from Enter Technologies are currently working or have worked, right? And there's way more. Like I said, there's hundreds of them. This is just a quick snapshot that we're able to pull together. You can see the variety in the different places, right? From Conduent to Coca-Cola, like Verizon, to US Bank, Equifax. Like, so it's financial, it's medical, it's utilities, it's across the spectrum. So there is no like single lane that this is the industry, this is where you have to get a job here or you don't get the most out of. That's not something we have to deal with, or that's not a challenge we have to live with. All right, so I've said quite a bit in a short time. Again, I'm moving fast because we started late. So again, my apologies there, but I hope all I'm saying is making sense. Give me some feedback in the chat. Give me some feedback in the chat. I want to make sure we're still all here. Now I can't find where the chat is. I'm just going to keep going. All right, so so going into today's topic, career path and specializations within database administration. So the topic for this workshop was, career opportunities in database administration, right? What are the different options we have if you are in this path, right? What are the different titles? Let me put it that way. What are the different titles available to me? I'm going to quickly go through them. Again, I want to make sure we are on time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I will find the chat eventually, and I will make sure I answer those questions as we proceed. All right, so what are our various career options? Let's go. The first one is obviously being the database administrator, the DBA, right? The database administrator. This is the core, role. This is like, well, I won't use doctor because then doctor is there's the specialization within that. So this is the core role. It's responsible for maintaining and optimizing and securing databases. So all of the work we do in terms of managing and administering business critical data happens under this title. Right, this is like the parent's title basically. So you are a database administrator, and there's a level of specificity to it. So you are, depending on the platform of your expertise. So you can be a SQL Server database administrator or an Oracle DBA, all of those different platforms that I showed us. You can be a database administrator in any of those platforms, right? So your SQL or Oracle or MySQL or Postgres DBA. But as a database administrator, you are basically the gatekeeper for business critical data. You are the one who is harnessing, all of this data. You are making sure people have access to the information they need on time, right? Your clients, your end user, your clients depend on who you are serving, right? Your client can be your manager asking for a report, or it can be your customer, for your business that you work for, looking to see the bank balance on their account, right? It can be somebody who has you work for an insurance company and someone has put in a claim and wants to know the status of their claim, right? That's the end user, that's your client. So our goal is to make that person, the client happy, basically, making sure in terms of access to the information, accuracy of the information, prompt availability of the information. That's our job, right? And it's, again, I do a workshop where I really go in depth into the roles and responsibilities of a database administrator, but that's, at a high level. When you talk about a DBA, that's a very foundational data-centric role, and it's pretty much every business needs one as they begin to deal with larger volumes of data. Right, so that's the first one. I have a few of them. I have like 5 of them. The second one is the developer, right? Your database developer. So now this is one that people always tend to confuse with, oh, you're a developer, so you must be writing code. And yes, we do, or you're a DBA, so you don't have to write code. And people misunderstand what development is. When you're developing something, it's almost like you are building something. Okay, so database administrators are involved in development, right? So you can, when some people see this database developer titles and they run from it because the first assumption they have is you're writing code, you're writing complex code. No, you are part of building. You know, your end goal is an outcome that's a project, whether it's an app or a new server or, you know, some infrastructure thing within your database organization or your database infrastructure, some configuration inside there. You know, that's development at a high level. So does it involve some more? We use scripts, you know, writing some scripts, you know, some coding, some scripts in development, because it's the building block for most platforms, right? So if you're SQL, right, if I'm speaking Greek, please let me know. If you have any questions, I'm looking at the chat, so just put something in the chat if you have any questions, and I'll definitely get to it. But if we're building anything, the scripting language, I'll take SQL for example, which is like the parent when it comes to all database language and scripting. SQL is like the foundation of it. SQL is like all the database platforms speak SQL, I'll put it that way. Okay, some have their variations of SQL, but generally at the base of it is SQL. And then SQL is like that foundational material. So to get an outcome, it's always in SQL. So if you understand SQL, that means it gives you more range in terms of how you can send instructions or how you can manipulate the building. You know, manipulate what you're developing or building through that project. So that's why there is some, you know, it might seem that there is more coding and scripting involved at this phase, because now you're trying to tweak and alter and get to specific destinations. But it's the mindset. What I'm trying to debunk is development doesn't really necessarily mean writing code. It's more than that. It's just building out something. You're creating an outcome basically. And so as a developer, you are, again, like I said, you can see there in the explanation, you're creating and modifying database structures to meet specific application needs. There's always an application aspect when, you know, with data. So data is like in the software development life tiers basically. The data is at the back end, the application layer is at the front, right? The end user interacts with the application layer. The end user, so end user is me and you logging on to our apps on our phones. We are end users. The app on your phone, the website, is the application, right? That is how we interact with the data. We don't have direct access to all of the data, but I log into the app, my bank account, and I put in my information, my credentials, and I see my balance, and I can see my list of transactions. All of those things live at the back end in the database. So there are layers of verification or authentication before I can get to that piece of information. So that's the developers are the ones who do all of the manipulation and modification of the structures, you know, of the database structures that help us access what's beyond or behind the application. I hope that makes sense. So that's the database developer. So we've talked about 2 options here. We've talked about the database administrator. We've talked about the database developer. The next guy is the database security specialist. And this one is more focused on, you know, who has access to the data and the databases, right? When they are dealing with access control. So How do people get to the data? It is true. It is true logins, it's true users. And so the security data DBAs or the security specialists, their role is to ensure that we have things put in place to prevent unauthorized access, to prevent any suspicious behavior or access to our data. We don't want, because again, if the data is compromised, the business is compromised. That's another reason or another key aspect of our work, right? Our work is so critical because let's say, again, I'm not playing down on any other career paths or tech careers, but let's say a website developer, for example, right? The front end, website can go down for a few hours and the company is not threatened. The company might lose business, they might lose, some business, some money. But in the end, what they will probably have is just angry customers, right? Maybe some losses. But the threat is not my business is going down. But if a hospital comes and says, hey, our database was just hacked and somebody stole all of our patient records, there's no more hospital. Pretty much, because every patient's record is compromised, right? Medication, prescriptions, all of that is compromised. That is dangerous. Our work is sensitive. If a retail store, a retail chain like a Walmart or Amazon is compromised, how do you deliver on orders that have been placed? Right? How do you track inventory, what's left? So it can have a crippling effect, right? And so because of the dependence of most businesses on their data, the job of a security specialist or the DBA in terms of security aspect is ensuring the right people have the right access, right? Depending on what your role is within the organization or within the, are you an end user? Are you an employee that's doing specific tasks? Based on what your role is or responsibility, proper permissions will be granted to your account. Now, if you don't belong in there, you don't even have an account to get started. So this guy's role is to ensure that access control is properly managed. Access to the data is properly regulated. So they can do that by setting things in place in terms of permissions, or they can do it, in terms of policy, right? Putting together policy that will ensure that the organization is following standards when it comes to how they grant access to data for users. So that's the database security specialist. The next one is cloud database administrator. This person, I was thinking I would just put them side by side with the database administrator because they are the same person. The only difference is with the cloud DBA, you're doing your job on servers hosted in the cloud, right? So you're not dealing with on-prem, that's physical servers or servers. You're not managing database servers that are in a physical data center. The servers you manage are hosted on Azure or AWS, right? There's other cloud providers, but when it comes to people who provide the server services, not just cloud services, like Google has Google Cloud, iCloud, these are all cloud service providers, but I'm not necessarily hosting my servers on Google Cloud, right? It doesn't have that capacity yet. I'm not hosting my servers or my data center on iCloud. I'm just storing my content and files in those places. So that's more storage. Amazon and AWS have their own storage aspect, right? If you think of most of the big content organizations, like say Netflix, for example, Netflix is all of Netflix database in terms of their movies and everything is hosted on AWS, right? So there's a lot of you see most of the newer like startup companies today, on AWS or Azure, because buying physical infrastructure can be really expensive, and you get to pay for what you might not necessarily use. So a database administrator but in this case, you are managing data that has its home, that's database servers that have their home in the cloud, in cloud platforms like AWS and Azure, versus maybe virtual machines like with built in physical data centers that live inside, maybe use VMware or something. So that's the key difference. So there's like an added layer of skill set development that you need for this, right? So with the traditional DBA, let me call it traditional, right? With the traditional DBA, you're proficient in just standard server, navigation, server technologies, and all of that. And then your core skill is the database itself. With the cloud technologies, now it's the same thing. Your core, in terms of infrastructure, you're knowledgeable to an extent on AWS and Azure and how that's built out. You should be able to spin off a server in the cloud and build out your installation in the cloud. So there might be some slight technology differences, but in the end the foundation is the same. If you're a SQL Server database administrator, for example, Azure is Microsoft's cloud solution, so chances are it's going to be an easy transition to. It's going to be a few terminologies here and there, a few technologies here and there that you might need to get familiar with, and you're back working and doing what you do. So that's and for the cloud DBA, there's again there's a couple more, and then I have one that's not on the list here that I want to talk about. We have the data architect. Now this for me is always, I feel like this is the highest tier in the database administrator cadence of career paths. The data architect is a strategy person. This is a strategy role. It's more strategy than it is operations, right? So the rest of the ones I've described, you are part of the day-to-day. Like a typical DBA is support, right? It breaks, customer is crying, let's go investigate, let's look at what it is, let's do root cause analysis, let's jump on a bridge, conference call, the application is slow, investigate why. That's typical DBA life, right? If you work in a high volume transaction environment, it's this type of language you're dealing with. Oh, here there's, jump on bridge, support, failure, investigate, root cause analysis. The architect is not necessarily having to deal with that level of chaos. They are on the strategy side. So they, think of an architect like in real, not in real life. I mean, this is a real architect. But in the traditional concept or context of an architect is somebody that draws, designs or creates designs for buildings, right? And so what that means is I want to build a house, right? And so I have an idea and I have some money, and I want to build a new house. I find an architect. I have the land, and so I tell the architect, like, hey, I have this land. This is the size of the land. This is the acreage and all of that good stuff. And this is what I want. I want a 4-bedroom or a 5-bedroom. I want, the house to have this, and I want an interest like that. I give my specifications to the architect. The architect now takes my specifications and brings up a logical design. So he shows me something on paper, like, hey, Namdi, is this what you are thinking? Right? And I can come back and say, nah, I don't really like that palm tree there. Can you move it here? Or, you know what? I thought this was a good idea, but now that I'm looking at what you're drawing, I think I want to go this direction, right? So they help me bring my specifications into a realistic form. There might be things that I want. Maybe I want a swimming pool inside of the house, but the swimming pool has to be in between the first and second floor, suspended in some way, shape, or form, right? So now that they want to come and tell me, well, the physics and the maths of this is not adding up, right? They do the design, building engineers not be able to implement this. So that's the architect. They are strategy people. They are looking at, okay, we want to build an app that will do this and this and that. And then they will look at that specification. How do we make this work, right? What do we need to make? What do we need to build on the database side to make this application come to life? That's the architect, and they are the ones who come back and say, well, we need this. These are the specifications for the type of servers we use. This is the version of SQL that will need to be Microsoft SQL that will need to run on. This is the way the tables will relate to themselves. This is going to be the columns and the structure of it. So they come with strategy, and they can come push back and say, hey, I know you're trying to do this, but this platform and this platform don't talk. It's not going to work. Instead, let's do this. So the architect is a strategy. The role of the architect is a strategy heavy role. And that's why they are separate from support. Because with support, it's difficult to. It's just removing the hat and putting on a support hat can be a hassle. In some companies where they don't have the budget or they're cheap, this can be. You can move from in between support and architect, depending on the size of the company, their resources and all of that. But ideally, especially in high volume transactional environments, right? Companies like your retail stores that are doing hundreds of thousands of transactions by the minute. You want to keep this separate, because then an operations guy that are working for Amazon or working for Walmart, who is dealing with all of this transaction volume by the hour, it's going to be a hassle for them to transition from doing support and put on their architect hats to go have strategy conversations, right? So that's why these roles are kind of like, you want to separate them. And there's one other one that I don't have listed here. This is the last one I have on my list, but there's one more role, and that's the business intelligence. And again, it doesn't necessarily fall on that database administrator, but it's kind of connected. And so the business intelligence people are doing, that ETL processes. So ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. And basically that is getting the raw data, right? So you see how there's always data scraping going on. What is data scraping? You go online and you search for shoes. I want to buy black shoes for men, and you look or do a quick search, or you do a search somehow, somewhere. And then it looks like that search triggered something, and everywhere you go, you start seeing black shoes for men. You start seeing promotions and advertisements for shoes that meet that search criteria. What happened is our behaviors are constantly being monitored and tracked using, you see them say enable cookies or disable cookies. Those cookies are basically licensed to track your online activity, and based on that, the Googles and the Apples, that's why again you wonder, oh, I just looked up this thing on my phone or I talked about this, and suddenly it's showing up everywhere. That's because again, data is being created and generated everywhere. So as you are speaking, data has been generated, and now those things become of interest to the people who need that data, that are monitoring your behavior, that have paid to get access to that information. Now know, okay, Namdi is looking for a shoe, let's show him shoes, right? Namdi is looking for a new house, let's go show him new houses, right? So you start seeing promotion for realtor.com and those places because they know you are in the market. You've said something or triggered something that shown that where your interests are. The reason why all of that can happen so fast, again, is because raw data is constantly being gathered and stored up in data warehouses, right? That's where the ETL people, the business intelligence folks come in. They're extracting these large volumes of data. They are performing whatever they do, do some analysis on these large data volumes, and they are able to use that to predict behaviors, whether it's buyer behaviors, whether it's customer, client, end user behaviors, and it's that data now informs the decision making for businesses, right? So that's why it's called business intelligence. So that's another critical part. So you see them do a lot of reporting and using things like Tableau and Power BI and all of that good stuff. So that's its own. It's not a direct DBA role, but it's in the same family because we use very similar tools. They just have more modeling tools, and we have more support-centric tools that we use. All right, plenty of information. Let me know if you have questions in the chat while I keep chugging along. So, in conclusion, I gave us 5 different career paths: the database administrator, database developer, the database security specialist, the cloud administrator and the data architect, and I added the business intelligence, developer or analyst. So here's what we've covered so far. We've looked at the database administrators and what is required to get started, the opportunities, and then we've looked at the difference. We've kind of explored the different career options or opportunities within the database administration realm. Now, just in the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about how do you get started, and in case you're interested in working with us, what are options, what those look like. So the first thing you can do, honestly, is if you are already employed somewhere, if you're already working in an organization and you are looking to get into this line of work, we've covered so much and we've looked at the value, right, for database administrators. And one of the concerns people have is like, well, where do I start from, right? Do I just uproot myself? And don't do that. If you're already working somewhere, you can look for IT roles within the organization, right? I've mentored people to follow this approach and it's worked for them. The first set of people actually I guided into data and database administration as a career path was a route, but it was within the same company I worked, so I guess it was easier because I had that thought. But if there is an IT department, maybe people that are in the NOC and the monitoring, tech support, try to see if there's a lateral move available to you. In fact, a lot of companies have, depending on how big the company is, you're able to go talk to HR. A lot of people don't know you can do this, and have a conversation about what you're looking to do career-wise, and let them help you map out that strategy, But if you start looking for ways to collaborate with the IT department, maybe do some shadowing, right? The only hassle with this is you can't just up and say, hey, I want to go and start watching the IT guys, see what they do, or spend time with them. You have your job to do, and so there needs to be some level of collaboration between your management and the management of the IT department. They have to have the capacity and the vacancy to support this, right? So if it's an option that's there, and then as you start shadowing the database people, maybe especially if you're working in lower tier type situations, right? You might be just monitoring and sending reports that they let you do. But what that does is you start building familiarity with their processes and the people. And when there's an opening, if it's something where they just need somebody who is, startup level, not necessarily doing the big heavy lifting, maybe because it's just in an extra set of hands, you're going to probably be the first to know, and you're going to have the first right of refusal in a sense. So that's an option, but again, many options are outside of your control with that one. But if you're already, I will say everybody should explore this. If you're already working, especially if you work in a larger company, then even tomorrow, go start having those conversations. Even if you decide to go a different route, I'll say still start having these conversations to see where it goes. You can't tell. You can't tell. So definitely have a chat with people that need, that are there, that will help make this decision. If it was going to happen, who do you need to talk to? Then go talk to that person, basically. The next option is you can go get another, if you want to go back to school, it's an option. Now it's expensive, right? If I was doing this workshop 4 years ago, well, maybe not 4, but say 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10, when I first started, 12 years ago, my first foray into, there were not necessarily any database administration specific majors. Now there are, right? I've seen even like master's programs that have some concentration in database administration or database engineering, database architecture, and you get to learn a range of platforms and internal functionalities of those things. So there's options now if you want to go, if you always wanted to go back and get a master's degree, for example, or, you wanted to go back to school, you were going to do it anyway, but you feel like based on what we've learned today, you feel like this is a viable career path for me. Then explore this option right? Whether it's a, if it's a, first degree, see if there's any minors. You can have a concentration and have a minor, and there's master's programs as well, that are even, people have seen people doing like, database centric research for their doctorates. So at every level of education now, there's an option to, build this into your training and your learning. So it's a valid path now, especially, you're looking to get into database administration and you're going to go back to school for sure. That's something you're going to do. Then yeah, but if your only goal is to get a job in tech, you don't need to go back and get a degree to acquire the skills. And if your only objective is I just want to get a job, it's not about anything for me. I just want a job. Then going back to degree is a longer route because you're spending 2 to 4 years depending on the route you take, or longer. Then the other option for self-starters, you can take online courses and navigate the process on your own. Now this works if you're already somebody who is near the industry, then yes, go for this path, right? Let's say you're already working as a business analyst or a data analyst somewhere, and you just want to take it to the next level. You just need to up your skills a little bit, and go. Then yes, this is a valid route for you. You're already working in support. You're already working in the NOC. You're already familiar with the foundations, of server infrastructure and even some database terminology. You're not completely new to it. You're not totally unfamiliar with concepts around IP addressing and server security and those type things. You're just looking to acquire skills to get yourself to the next level, to maybe increase your income or get into a job you prefer, in terms of schedule and flexibility. Then this is a better investment for you if you're already in the system. But if you're just new completely and this is your first foray into the world of tech and you're trying to do it, you can do online courses to get some knowledge, right? You can do it to get, foundational. Let me just get familiar with what it looks like. You can do that. If that's your goal, you can do that. But if this is your move to equip yourself to jump into the field and get a job and that will pay you the monies we talked about and all the opportunities we explored earlier, then it's online courses will not do it for you, right? Especially this self-paced, no support type courses. There are courses that are hybrid of sorts. So it's self-paced, but at least you have a guide along. Those ones I'm okay with. We have programs like that, where it's your pace, but you have sessions on a regular basis to talk to somebody who will walk you through stuff. There's homework and projects and all of those things. Those are required. There's guidance with navigating reality, like what it looks like in the workplace. That's if you have that to go with the online videos and courses, great. If not, for somebody starting, trying to venture, then I will not recommend this one. But if you're already in the game and looking to just turbocharge then yes. And then the last option is you can do career training programs. So people talk about boot camps, but I prefer what we do here is not necessarily boot camps, because we're authorized by the state. We're not a boot camp, we are a career training provider. So continuing education, that's what I prefer to call us. But that's really, those are just proctored sessions that's faculty led. And faculty means people who have not just studied it, but have actually worked in the industry. And so the training translates directly from classroom to the job. And that's the option. That's your options in terms of if you're looking to make a jump or transition into career in database administration, and really most fields in tech, these are the routes I would recommend. So depending on where you are, what your goals are, and where that will drive the option you choose. We offer career training programs, and if it's okay with you, I'll take the next few minutes to kind of talk through just what we do and our program and what that looks like. And then if you want to work with us, you'll see how to book a call and we'll continue the conversation. Again, my apologies for the initial shenanigans at the beginning. But we'll dive through. So we have our SQL DBA certificate program. Like I talked earlier about the different database management platforms. For us at Enstar Technologies, the database management platform we teach is the SQL database platform, and our program is built to help you land a SQL Server job, a SQL Server DBA job in 8 to 10 weeks without breaking the bank or going back to school for another degree. Or we'll continue working with you until you do. That's our guarantee. And we do this. We have a 3-pillar program. Our program is it's a 3-phase program. Phase 1 is the tech mastery phase. You need to know your technology, so we focus on that. Yes, there's a non-technical skills. Yes, there's other aspects of other factors that will help you be successful on the job. But it starts with knowing what you're talking about. Your interviewers will sniff out BS straight out of the gates if you don't know what you're talking about. So we focus on building proficiency in the technology. All of the technical concepts, you want to get to a level of mastery, and you attain that by you're going to spend time in the lab, like working. We'll give you homeworks, real life case studies that you will actually build stuff. And then the next phase is our career launch framework, right? So that guides you through from how your resume should be set up to how to position yourself to ensure your phone is ringing. And our goal is before the end of that 8 to 10 weeks, you should be scheduling interviews, not just getting recruiter calls, but actually scheduling interviews and doing. My target that I give my students all the time is you owe me 1 interview, you owe me 2 interviews, but at least 1. You owe me 2 scheduled interviews and 1 actually done interview. So that's my challenge to my students, beginning of every program, every class. And we equip you with what it takes to get to it. So you're not, we're working with you through the process. And then the final phase of our training is our recruitment and hiring funnel. And this is focused on interviews, how to interview properly to make sure you are prepared. So we go through all of this, phases to help our students be successful. And like I mentioned before, beyond the training, beyond the 8 to 10 weeks, we have programs designed. Every week, as I'm speaking to you right now, we have weekly calls where we have conversations with our past students. They can come and ask questions, all that good stuff. So we have programs designed to continue to support our students for really until they get tired of working with us. And that's something that sets us apart. As part of your program, we have weekly live sessions. So twice a week. Right now, we do Saturdays and Sundays, 3 hours every Saturday and Sunday. You get those sessions, and it's live classes. So this is not our prerequisite. This is not a hybrid. This is a live cohort. And then every class is recorded, so you get access to the replays immediately after the class. And I'm putting that in a document. So at the end of the program, 10 weeks, you're going to have a huge document that has notes from class, recordings, replays in one place. So that becomes your go-to document. It's going to be relevant for when you start working. It's going to be relevant for your interviews, all of that good stuff. You have, sessions we need to chat. We're available. We have unlimited support via Slack. Of course, the job search and interview prep. The alumni community is one of our key things that you have access to. Again, once you're done, you're added to our alumni community, and that's people who are also doing the work, doing the stuff, right? And that becomes a pool of resources available to you, after you complete the program. Some other advantages that we bring, we are authorized by the Georgia Post-Secondary Education Council. That's something most people who train don't bother with certification and accreditation, but it's illegal to train without this accreditations actually. We are, and what that means is if you decide to go back to school for any reason, you can take your learning certificate from Enstar Technologies, and they can apply some of that. They can apply that towards some of your school credits, which saves you money. If it's similar enough in curriculum, you can take some credits with you. Or if you're doing independent study, things like that, you can take credits from your class. And then all of our training, like I said, is from real world case studies. I teach the database program, and so it's 12 years of experience that I'm bringing doing exclusively database administration. So that's a lot of experience, plus everybody who I've supported and I continue to support. It's constantly drawing from a pool of all of those experiences, and bringing that and dumping that on you guys to make sure you go on and become successful. There's jobs assistance, interview assistance, all of that good stuff. You have access to a resume. I'll give you sample resumes to use. We're guiding you through the process. You have it's everything, right? And you get a certificate of completion at the end. So the goal is we don't want you to, you're not dealing with any more guesswork. We want to take away all of that so you can go on and have your dream career. If you go on our Facebook page and on Google, you'll see plenty of reviews. Again, for the sake of time, I won't even go through all of them, but people say nice things about us after they go through our programs. We've had a lot of success with our students, and this is our biggest brag, right? 80% of our program completers are working right now in the last year. So that's a big deal for us. Again, this is all of that. I'm going to go through this so you can start today or do nothing. There's people who have attended these workshops like every month, and this one was abrupt. I already done mine for the month, but this was I have people who are in this regular monthly workshops. They've attended like 5. Like, what are you looking for? Go ahead and sign up for class. All right, so that's if you're looking to start, please go ahead and scan that QR code on your screen, or type out that bits.ly and go ahead and sign up. We are doing some promotions now. We have a cohort starting in middle of July. I think it's 13th. I might be don't hold me to that. I think it's the 13th. I think so, thereabouts. I'm not sure. It's not coming to my head correctly, but if you want to learn more about, again, this is designed to be a workshop to talk about database administration. So I'll introduce our programs, but I'm not going to spend time really selling the course or our programs here. That's not what this is for. But if you want to learn more about our programs, and I know we have questions around costs and all of that, I'll be glad to help you out. Please go ahead, scan that QR code, and book a call, and we'll be glad to chat with you. All right, that's all I have. I'm past it's past the hour mark again. Apologies for the initial shenanigans at the beginning, but we will. So please go ahead and scan the QR code. Let's talk. Let me see if I can pull up the link quickly. If I can find the link. All right, and let's see. And where is the chat? Chat is difficult to find. All right, so I have the link on the chat. So please go ahead, click on the link and book a call, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have or go in depth into our programs. Again, middle of July is when the next cohort starts. Can't wait to chat with you. And if you want to speak to, if you like, just book that call, and we'll follow up with you. We'll talk. You exhaust all your questions in those sessions to make sure we have options for payments. We are running promotions and discounts. Again, that's not the call for this call, but I'll go ahead and stop here because of time. Thank you all so much for being here. You're going to get a replay for this session. It's going to come your email, so look out for that at some point, maybe tomorrow, and there'll be follow-up conversations from there too. So thank you again. I look forward to working with every one of us in some capacity, but for today, it's enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.